Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling, well, a really fascinating subject. What truly defines the Buddha?
We're going to be exploring the 9 principal attributes, drawing from the book, The 9 Attributes of the Buddha.
Yeah, and this book, it seems its goal is really to enrich understanding and maybe deepen faith for people interested in these teachings.
Exactly. It digs into the profound meanings behind the descriptions of the Buddha. And, the English edition was quite a global effort, with editors from different countries collaborating.
That's interesting in itself. So for you, our listener, the learner, our aim here is to pull out the most compelling insights.
Right, to give you a clear, engaging grasp of these core virtues without, burying you in information.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive into the very first attribute then, arath, often translated as the worthy or accomplished one. What's the core idea here?
At its heart, Ara points to someone deeply worthy, accomplished, because they've completely eradicated their mental defilements.
Mental defilements. And the book really goes into what these are, right? They're not just minor flaws.
No, not at all. Think of them as these dishonorable, unwholesome qualities that actively afflict and contaminate the mind. Things like greed, aversion, ignorance, jealousy.
Even things like shamelessness or fearlessness of wrongdoing. The book calls them our real enemies, which is a strong way to put it.
It is powerful, and it explains how they pop up, basically, through the contact of our senses, our 6 senses, with the world around us.
Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, interacting with sights, sounds, smells.
Exactly. And the key problem arises when there's a lack of what's called yoniso manasikara, basically appropriate attention or wise reflection.
Okay, so without that careful attention.
Well, ordinary people, worldlings, as the text says, tend to just react, craving for pleasant things, aversion towards unpleasant things. And this reaction generates unwholesome karma.
Actions with consequences. And these consequences, the book says, lead to actual suffering now and in the future.
Yes, and not just personal suffering. It can harm others, leading to conflict, even war. And it mentions potential rebirth in less fortunate realms, hells, animal realms, and so on.
It really drives home how serious these mental states are.
It does. And to emphasize how rare our current human situation is, the book brings up the Buddha's fingernail dust analogy.
Oh, yeah.
He compared the number of beings reborn as humans to the tiny bit of dust on his fingernail versus all the dust on the entire earth.
Wow. So incredibly rare.
Very rare. It highlights the preciousness of this chance to actually work on these defilements.
So against that backdrop, you have the Buddha, who, upon enlightenment, just completely wiped out all these defilements simultaneously.
That's what the attribute signifies, eradicated them all. The book quotes the Dhammapada here, comparing self-control to irrigators guiding water or Fletchers straightening arrows.
Showing incredible mastery.
Precisely. That achievement under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya is why he's sometimes called the killer of enemies, these internal enemies. The defilements are seen as the engine of rebirth.
And the state of being free from them.
Yeah.
It sounds profound. The Arahant's right view is fearless, worry-free, equanimous.
Untouched by the 8 worldly conditions, gain and loss, fame and dishonor, praise and blame, suffering and happiness. There's a Dhammapada verse celebrating this serene state.
The book makes an interesting distinction, though, between this inner state and maybe outward habits. It mentions Arahant Palinavacha.
Yes, that's a fascinating example. He apparently had a habit of using somewhat offensive language, calling people outcast, but did so without any actual aversion or conceit. The inner defilement was gone.
So the root cause is gone, even if the surface habit might linger without the negative intent. That's subtle.
It shows it's about the inner purity. The text also clarifies the Buddha's unique role. He's the discoverer of the path, while disciples dwell following that path. He paved the way.
Which leads to the idea of him being worthy of offerings, right?
Absolutely. Deserving of material support, food, robes, shelter, medicine, and reverence, not just from humans, but from gods, Brahmas, across all 31 planes of existence mentioned in Buddhist cosmology.
The examples given are quite vivid. Blooming trees and sandalwood powder at his passing away, King Ajatasattu caring for the relics.
And the huge donations from monasteries by figures like King Bimbisara, Anathapindika, Visakha. These show the depth of respect he inspired. The book connects this to modern offering practices, too.
And it highlights King Ashoka's contribution as well, his conversion after that brutal Kalinga War.
That's presented as his greatest offering. His reign of virtue, building stupas, supporting the monastic community and intellectual centers like Nalanda, sponsoring the Third Council.
And sending his son Mahinda and daughter Sagamata to Sri Lanka, which was pivotal.
Hugely pivotal. It led to Sri Lanka becoming a Buddhist country and helped preserve the Dhamma. He sent missionaries elsewhere, too. A massive contribution to spreading the teachings.
Amazing impact. Lastly, under Araha, the book talks about him as the destroyer of the wheel of rebirth. This ties back to the defilements.
Directly. It's about understanding and breaking the chain of dependent origination. Those 12 interconnected factors that keep beings cycling through birth, death, and suffering.
Ignorance, craving, clinging, karma. That whole cycle.
Right. The book lists them briefly, stressing the cycle has no discernible beginning and is perpetuated by ignorance and craving. It quotes the Buddha on how profound and difficult to see this process is. Grasping it is key to liberation.
Okay, that covers Araha thoroughly. Let's move to the second one, Sammasambuddho, the rightly self-awakened one. This emphasizes his unique path to enlightenment, yeah.
It does. It's about achieving enlightenment entirely through his own efforts, without a teacher for that final realization. The book recounts Prince Siddhartha's journey, seeing old age, sickness, death.
The divine messengers that shocked him out of his sheltered life.
Exactly. Igniting that intense quest for nibbana, for the unborn, unaging, unailing, deathless, sorrowless, undefiled supreme surcease of bondage.
Which led to his great renunciation, leaving the palace, his wife Yasodhara, his son Rahula.
A radical move. And the book stresses it wasn't lack of love, but this overwhelming spiritual urgency.
Then he sought out teachers, Ara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputa.
Yes, but found their meditative attainments, though high, didn't lead to ultimate liberation. So then came the 6 years of extreme austerities.
Self-mortification. The book describes him as incredibly emaciated, right? Like skin and bone.
Yes, eating almost nothing. Pushing his body to the absolute limit. It shows his incredible determination.
But also his realization that this punishing path wasn't the answer either.
Correct. He realized weakening the body didn't strengthen the mind for insight, so he abandoned those extremes, accepted some nourishing food milk rice.
Which caused his 5 ascetic companions to leave him.
They thought he'd given up the struggle, but it was actually a crucial turning point towards the middle way.
And that led him to Bodh Gaya, the Bodhi tree, and that famous resolution.
His vow not to get up until he achieved full awakening. The book mentions his practice of mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, entering the deep meditative states, the jhanas.
Then the confrontation with Mara, the personification of temptation, distraction, fear.
Mara threw everything at him, armies, storms, seductive daughters trying to break his concentration. But Siddhartha remained unshaken.
And the earth-touching gesture.
Calling the earth to witness his eons of accumulated merits, his paramis. The earth itself is said to have responded, confirming his worthiness, and Mara was defeated. A powerful symbolic moment.
It really is. And then, through the night, he attained the 3 knowledges.
In the 3 watches of the night, yes. First, knowledge of his own past lives. Second, the divine eye, seeing how beings are reborn according to their actions, their karma.
And the third, the crucial one.
Knowledge of the exhaustion of the taints or defilements, asavakayanya. This came through fully understanding the 4 noble truths. The book quotes his realization, birth is exhausted, there is no more of this to come. Liberation.
So that was it, full self-enlightenment. Anuttara Sammasambodhi, omniscient knowledge, achieved entirely on his own.
Understanding the Dhamma, the 4 noble truths, unheard before. That's the essence of Sammasambuddho.
And the book distinguishes this from the enlightenment of his disciples, even Sariputta and Moggallana.
Absolutely. Their enlightenment, Safkabodhi, was attained by following the path he taught. His was Sammasambodhi, self-discovered. His knowledge was unique and all-encompassing in a way theirs wasn't. He found the recipe, they learned it from him.
Got it. So Sammasambuddho really highlights that unique, self-reliant discovery of the path.
Precisely. His own wisdom and immense effort over countless lifetimes culminating in that moment.
Okay, moving to the third attribute, Vijakaran Sampano, endowed with knowledge and conduct. This sounds like a balance, right?
Exactly. Vijja is clear or higher knowledge. Karana is virtuous conduct or practice. The Buddha perfected both. The book breaks this down into 8 types of knowledge and 15 aspects of conduct.
Let's start with the knowledges. 3 we've already touched on from his enlightenment night.
Right. Recollecting past lives, the divine eye, and knowledge of the ending of defilements. The book quotes the Digha Nikaya on that last one.
And then 5 more.
Yes. Insight knowledge, vipassana, understanding impermanence, suffering, not self in relation to our experience, then knowledge of creating a mind-made body.
Like the story of Kapantaka.
That's the example given. Also, various supernormal powers, psychic abilities, the divine ear, dibasotnya, hearing distant sounds, and knowledge of the minds of others, parasitavijananya.
And the book is careful to note these powers weren't for show.
No, always for benefiting others. Like when he performed miracles for his proud Sakyan relatives flying, the twin miracle it was to humble their pride and open them to the teaching, not for self-aggrandizement.
Okay, and the 15 kinds of virtuous conduct. That sounds comprehensive.
It is. It includes things like restraint, according to the monastic rules, pramoka, restraint of the sense faculties to prevent desire and illusion.
Controlling the reactions we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Moderation in eating for sustenance, not pleasure or pride. Wakefulness, being mindful throughout the day and night, even sleeping mindfully.
The 8 knowledges themselves are listed again under conduct.
Interestingly, yes. Alongside right effort, mindfulness, and clear comprehension, wisdom, and the attainment of the 4 jhanas. It shows how integrated these aspects are.
So his vast knowledge was perfected through these realizations, and his conduct expressed his great compassion.
That's how the book frames it. His knowledge fulfilled his wisdom. His conduct fulfilled his compassion, guiding beings away from harm towards liberation.
And it stresses the need for both, that one without the other is incomplete.
Yes, it gives the example of King Pasenadi good conduct, but maybe lacking deep wisdom initially, and someone lacking conduct might not even get the chance to hear the Dhamma. It's an encouragement for balanced development.
Makes sense. Cultivate both insight and ethical living.
It's the integrated path.
Okay, attribute number 4, Shugato, well gone. This one seems to have a few meanings packed into it.
It does. The primary meaning is gone rightly, or gone the good way. But the book explains it also implies has come rightly and speaking rightly.
Let's unpack has come rightly. What does that refer to?
It refers to the Bodhisattva's immense journey through samsara over countless eons, deliberately taking rebirth again and again to perfect the 10 perfections, the paramis.
All with the goal of eventually becoming a Buddha to help all beings.
Exactly. It wasn't accidental. It was a purposeful, gradual, disciplined path of purification and development.
And the book goes into these 10 perfections: generosity, morality, renunciation.
Yes, it outlines all 10. Dana, generosity; sila, morality; nekama, renunciation; panya, wisdom; virya, energy, effort; kanti, patience; saka, truthfulness; atithyana, determination. Oops, wait, the outline listed metta and upeka instead of athyana. Let me correct based on the outline provided earlier, which I should stick to. Metta, loving kindness, and upeka, equanimity. My apologies, sticking to the provided list.
No problem. And it gives examples for each, like sumedha for generosity.
Right. Sumedha, the ascetic, encountering Dipakara Buddha, making that aspiration, offering his body as a bridge. Sumita, who would become Yasotara, offering flowers. These illustrate Dhanaparami.
And the Naga, king for morality.
Yes, enduring torture from a snake catcher without breaking his precepts or feeling hatred, sacrificing his life, a powerful image of Sila.
And Kantivadi for patience. That story is intense.
Very. The ascetic enduring being dismembered by a drunken king without anger. The king's immediate bad karma resulting in rebirth in hell underscores the power of both patience and cruelty.
The book includes stories for the others too. Truthfulness, loving kindness, equanimity.
Yes, like the Bodhisattva keeping his promise to a cannibal king, leading to the king's change of heart, Saka. Prince Dhammapala showing impartial love even as he was being harmed, Metta. And the wise Lomahamsa remaining balanced whether abused or honored, Upeka.
So Come Rightly really captures that immense, dedicated struggle over lifetimes for the sake of others.
Precisely. The sacrifices made to reach enlightenment and be able to guide others across the ocean of suffering.
Okay, and Gone Rightly. What does that mean?
It primarily refers to the path taken by the Buddha to reach Nibbana, a path that is perfect and leads to the irreversible cessation of suffering. It also refers to the paths of liberation. His disciples follow stream entry, once returner, non-returner, arahantship. Each stage is a right going, where defilements are permanently abandoned.
So it's about the destination and the perfect path taken.
Yes. And then there's the third meaning, speaking rightly.
Sugato as speaking well. How does that work?
The Buddha only spoke words that were true, beneficial, and timely. Never false, useless, or harmful speech. The book gives example.
Like not mentioning King Ajatasattu's patricide at first. because the timing wasn't right.
Exactly, but later teaching him the Dhamma when he was receptive. Also, not speaking things that might be true but unhelpful. The example used is like celebrity gossip. Pleasing perhaps, but not beneficial.
And sometimes speaking truths that were beneficial but maybe initially unpleasant.
Yes, like his rejection of Magandia's daughter, which was truthful and ultimately for Magandia's benefit, though displeasing at first. Or speaking at just the right moment to awaken someone, like the monk obsessed with the courtesan's sirima.
So always skillful, truthful, beneficial, and timely communication.
That's the essence of Shigato as speaking rightly.
Right. Let's move to number 5. Lokavidu, knower of worlds. This sounds vast. Is it just cosmology?
It's much more than that, though it includes cosmology. Lokavidu means knowing or being skilled in the world, mentally and materially. But crucially, the book points out the Buddha found the ultimate truth within this very body and mind.
The quote about the fathom-long body.
Yes, his answer to the Deva Rohitasa. Rohitasa tried to physically fly to the end of the cosmos and failed. The Buddha explained the end of the world, meaning the end of suffering isn't reached by travel, but by understanding the origin and cessation of suffering within oneself.
So the true knower of worlds understands the inner world of suffering and its end.
Precisely. The wise one who has fulfilled the holy life is calmed, doesn't crave this world or any other. That person has reached the world's end. Liberation.
And it's a path we have to walk ourselves.
Absolutely. The quote reminds us, you yourself must strive diligently. The Blessed One only indicates the path.
Okay, but the Buddha did have knowledge of the different realms. The book mentions 3 worlds he knew.
Yes. First, the world of formations, Sakara Loka. Our own mind and body, the 5 aggregates, 12 sense spaces, 18 elements, all conditioned phenomena marked by impermanence, suffering, and not self.
Dissect.
The world of beings, Sataloka. Knowing all types of beings in the 31 planes of existence from the realms of deprivation up through the human and deva realms to the fine material and immaterial Brahma worlds, knowing their forms, lifespans, where they dwell.
And third.
The world of space, Okasaloka.
Yeah.
A comprehensive knowledge of the physical universe, world systems, mountains, continents, heavens, hells, the detailed cosmology.
So an incredibly broad knowledge. But the book ties it back to suffering.
Yes. Ultimately, Lokavidya means understanding that all these conditioned worlds, because they are conditioned and impermanent, fundamentally entail suffering or unsatisfactoriness, dukkha. The Buddha taught suffering and its cessation.
Like the ocean having one taste salt, the Dhamma has one taste freedom.
That's the analogy used. Freedom from the suffering inherent in all conditioned worlds.
Understood. Okay, number 6. Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarathi. That's a mouthful. Incomparable trainer of those who can be trained.
It is a bit long. It means the incomparable leader or trainer, like a charioteer, Sarathi, for beings who are capable of being tamed or trained, Dhamma. Anuttaro means unsurpassed, incomparable.
So it highlights his unique skill as a teacher and guide.
Absolutely. The book quotes the Buddha himself saying he sees no one ascetic, Brahmin, Deva, human more perfect in virtue, concentration, wisdom, liberation than himself. This isn't arrogance, it's stating the fact of his unique position as the supreme guide.
And he could train all sorts of different people, using different methods.
Exactly. The text mentions his ability to use skillful means, sometimes gentle, sometimes harsh, sometimes both tailored to the individual.
And it gives examples, like Venerable Uruvela Kassapa.
Yes, the proud leader of fire-worshipping ascetics. The Buddha used displays of psychic power, things Kassapa couldn't do, to break through his pride and open him to the teaching.
And Queen Kema, who was attached to her beauty.
Right. King Bimbisara cleverly got her to visit the Buddha. The Buddha then conjured an image of a beautiful celestial nymph who aged rapidly and died before her eyes, driving home the truth of impermanence. She attained arahantship.
Wow. What about the fierce Yaka Avaka?
A creature demanding human flesh. The Buddha subdued him not with force, but with unwavering loving kindness, patience, and wisdom, answering his challenging questions. Avaka was completely transformed and became a stream enterer.
Amazing. And Sakaka, the debater.
Sakaka was attached to the idea of a permanent self. The Buddha skillfully debated him, using logic to show the impermanent, uncontrollable nature of the 5 aggregates, forcing Sakaka to concede defeat intellectually.
Then there's Ogalimala, the serial killer.
A truly fearsome figure. The Buddha approached him fearlessly. Ogalimala couldn't catch him, even running, while the Buddha walked calmly, a display of power. Then the Buddha's simple words, "I have stopped, Ogalimala, you stop too," meaning stop harming, pierced through his delusion. He renounced, ordained, and eventually became an arahant.
incredible transformations, and Vahya Darukiriya, quick enlightenment.
Yes, Bahia had a strong aspiration from a past life to be the quickest to attain enlightenment. Guided by a deva, he found the Buddha. The Buddha, seeing his readiness, gave him a very concise instruction. In the seen, there should be only the seen. Bahia grasped it instantly and attained arahantship right there.
So these examples really show the Buddha's incredible range and skill as a trainer.
Unsurpassed. Anitar Parisa Dhammasarathi.
Okay, seventh attribute, Satadeva Manusana, teacher of gods and humans. This seems related to the previous one, but broader.
It is related, but emphasizes the scope of his teaching. Sata means teacher. The Manasana means of gods and humans, but implies all beings capable of learning humans, devas, brahmas. He was the universal teacher.
Teaching about present life, future lives, the ultimate truth.
All of it. Guiding beings towards nibbana, the end of suffering, inspiring them to let go of attachments and walk the path.
And again, tailoring the teaching.
Yes, using his all-knowing mind to see beings' tendencies and give appropriate methods, suitable meditation subjects.
The book gives examples with humans like Kisa Gotami.
The grieving mother carrying her dead child. The Buddha didn't dismiss her grief, but gave her a task. Find a mustard seed from a house where no one has died. Her search made her realize the universality of death, which opened her to the teaching.
And the sick monk, Tissa.
Was abandoned by others. The Buddha personally cared for him, bathed him, cleaned him, and then taught him about the impermanence of the body. Tissa attained arahantship, and the other monks learned a lesson about compassion.
It also highlights his impartiality, treating everyone the same.
Completely. Regardless of status, friend or foe. He advised lay followers to keep supporting their previous teachers. His compassion for Devadatta, who actively tried to harm him, was said to be the same as for his own son Rahula.
That's remarkable. The core of his teaching is often summarized as doing good, avoiding evil, purifying the mind.
Yes. Understanding suffering, especially in lower realms, motivates avoiding harmful actions like killing, stealing, etc. Cultivating wholesome actions like generosity and morality leads to happiness now and good future rebirths.
And purifying the mind through meditation.
Crucial. Teaching concentration, samatha, to calm the restless mind, using different subjects for different temperaments, like contemplation of impurity for lust, loving kindness for hatred, breathing for distraction, Buddha's qualities for faith, elemental analysis for intellectual types.
Like the story of Pakosati understanding the elements.
Exactly. And with a concentrated mind, one can practice insight, vipassana, seeing the true nature of the five aggregates.
Understanding dependent origination again. Seeing the causes.
Yes, seeing how ignorance and craving lead to clinging and kama, which produces results, the aggregates, creating the cycle of defilement, action, and result. Understanding that when ignorance ceases, the whole cycle unravels.
And contemplating the three characteristics. Impermanence, suffering, not self.
Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Seeing these directly in one's own experience of the five aggregates. The book uses the analogy of the fisherman gradually weakening his grip on a poisonous snake, weakening the delusion of permanence, happiness, and self, leading towards liberation.
And he taught celestial beings too.
Devas.
Yes, preaching in heavenly realms. Even divas experience stress and aren't permanently free. They too need the Dhamma to reach Nibbana. Their heavenly existence depends on past karma and eventually ends.
So the root problem for all beings is clinging to the five aggregates.
Clinging to form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness as me or mine, as permanent or truly satisfying. That's the core issue Satadeva Manusana addressed. The Mangala Sutta is given as a good example of teaching applicable to both humans and gods. Got it. Okay, eighth attribute. Buddha, the enlightened or awakened one. This feels like the defining title.
It absolutely is. Buddha means the one who has awakened, specifically awakened to the Four Noble Truths, through his own efforts. He knew reality directly.
The book quotes his declaration to Sayalay again here. What should be known, I have known.
What should be abandoned, I have abandoned. Therefore, Brahman, I am a Buddha. A clear statement of his awakened state.
And the core of this awakening is the Four Noble Truths.
Yes, the book outlines them based on the Masattapahana Sutta. 1. The noble truth of suffering, dukkha. Birth, aging, death, sorrow, pain, grief, despair, not getting what you want. Essentially, the five aggregates of clinging are suffering. It details examples of aging and death.
So suffering isn't just obvious pain, but the inherent unsatisfactoriness of conditioned existence.
Precisely. 2. The noble truth of the origin of suffering, dukkha samudaya. This is craving for sensual pleasures, for existence, for non-existence, fueled by ignorance.
Craving keeps the wheel turning.
Yes. 3. The noble truth of the cessation of suffering, dukkha nirodha. The complete fading away and cessation of that same craving, letting go, relinquishing it. This cessation is nibbana.
Yen goal.
And 4. The noble truth of the way, leading to the cessation of suffering, dukkha nirodha gamani paipada. This is the noble eightfold path.
Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. The practical path.
The book briefly defines each component, and it revisits the 5 aggregates, explaining why they are suffering.
Material form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. Using those similes again. Foam, bubble, mirage.
Yes, to show their empty, impermanent, insubstantial nature. Form like foam, feeling like a bubble, perception a mirage, formations like a coreless plantain trunk, consciousness like a magician's illusion.
And it addresses how the illusion of a self arises from these.
From the interdependence of mind, nama, and matter, rupa, leading to self-identification, sakkaidiki. But the correct understanding, the Buddha taught, is to see each aggregate as, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself.
Because they are impermanent, stressful, and uncontrollable. Anatta.
Exactly. The book uses an analogy from the Majjhima Nikaya about the ocean drying up to illustrate impermanence. Since the aggregates change and are ultimately uncontrollable, clinging to them inevitably leads to suffering. The 5 aggregates of clinging are the noble truth of suffering.
And craving is pinpointed again as the origin, the builder of this house.
Yes, quoting the famous Dhammapada verses 153 to 154, craving leads to incessant birth and death. An analogy of ants drawn to honey is used. Craving is incredibly powerful.
And the eightfold path is the way out.
The practical method for ending craving and thus ending suffering.
So Buddha encapsulates this complete, self-realized understanding of the 4 noble truths.
And the book contrasts a Sammasambuddha with Pachaka Buddhas, silent Buddhas, who also awaken on their own but lack the capacity to teach the path comprehensively. A Sammasambuddha's arising is incredibly rare, requiring immense time perfecting the paramis.
Only one Buddha at a time in a world system.
Correct. The book quotes the Dhammapada on the rarity, and it mentions the Buddha sending out the first 60 arahants as Dhammadutas, messengers of truth, out of compassion to share this awakening.
Okay, the final attribute. Balaga, the Blessed One. This sounds like a title of ultimate respect.
It is. Bhalgava signifies the highest honor, acknowledging his special qualities and final liberation. It wasn't a given name, but earned through enlightenment, as Venerable Sariputta explained.
And the blessings refer to his accomplishment.
Yes. Having uprooted all defilements, crossed the flood of samsara, ended all future becoming, fully developed virtue, concentration, wisdom, and attained supreme bliss, both mundane and supramundane.
So people can rely on him, take refuge.
Absolutely. Lay people rely on his auspicious qualities. Spiritual seekers, saman, rely on his purity. Taking refuge in the Buddha offers protection from fear and the path to bliss.
Bhagava also implies skill in analyzing the Dhamma.
Yes, classifying phenomena into categories like the aggregates, khandha, sense bases, ayatana, elements, dhatu, tooth, saka, faculties, indriya, dependent origination, paikasamupata, a systematic understanding.
And the book lists the 10 powers of a Tathagata.
Yes, based on the Majjhima Nikaya. These are specific cognitive powers unique to a Buddha, like knowing cause and effect, precisely, knowing beings' inclinations and faculties, knowing the workings of meditative states, recollecting past lives, seeing rebirths with the divine eye, and knowing the exhaustion of defilements.
Number 10 was the 4 intrepidities, or confidences.
Correct. Confidence in his full enlightenment, the purity of his teaching, his ability to overcome obstacles, and the efficacy of the path he taught.
Wow. And there were also 4 kinds of analytical knowledge.
By Sampidanya. Knowledge of meaning, understanding the Dhamma's content. Knowledge of the law, understanding principles and causes. Knowledge of language, skillful explanation. And knowledge of ready wit, skill in debate and answering questions.
Finally, 6 excellent qualities are mentioned.
Yes. His perfect physical form, the 32 major and 80 minor marks, the excellence of his doctrine, knowing the supramundane paths and fruits, his universal fame, his large following of virtuous disciples, monks, nuns, lay people, the successful accomplishment of his wish to help beings, and his tireless effort from his first sermon to his very last words urging diligence.
Vayadhamma sankara apamadina sampadita. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with heedfulness.
Those very words. It all sums up why he is Bhagava, the Blessed One, the teacher deserving of highest veneration.
And the book ends by discussing recollecting these virtues. Buddhanusati.
Yes, emphasizing the benefit. It builds faith, gives us a mental refuge, encourages our own effort. The story of Fusadavatara is given.
Who used this recollection as his meditation?
Yes, overcoming Mara's distractions by focusing on the Buddha's true qualities, free from greed, aversion, delusion, and attaining liberation through this practice.
And it gives practical steps. Reciting, contemplating meaning, mental focus.
Leading potentially to access concentration, with the Buddha's virtues as the object, bringing joy and calm. It encourages frequent recollection to keep faith and inspiration strong. It ends with that lovely Dhammapada verse, "Happy is the birth of the Buddhas."
A perfect place to reflect. So, wrapping up this deep dive into the 9 attributes, wow, it really paints a picture of the Buddha's incredibly multifaceted nature, doesn't it?
It truly does. From Araha, the conqueror of inner defilements, to Bhagava, the supremely blessed one, each attribute offers a unique and profound perspective on his accomplishment and character.
And for you, the learner, we really hope this exploration has given you a clearer, more engaging insight into these core virtues. Hopefully it sheds light on Buddhist principles without being too overwhelming.
We hope so. It's deep material, but incredibly rich.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought for you to consider. How might focusing on, or trying to embody even just one of these attributes in your own way affect your life, your perspective, your actions?
That's a great question. Which qualities resonate most strongly with you? How could you explore those further in your own practice or daily life?
Something to reflect on. We definitely encourage you to continue exploring the vast wisdom within Buddhist teachings and practices.